let's continue with the same example in which we got all the information from the JSON placehold web service. Now we have done a GET request on this web service, but the problem is this web service won't allow us to perform any changes on its data. Like we cannot delete, update and modify the or add a new record to any of these web services. We can do a post request, a put request and a delete request on these web services, but thing is you don't see data getting reflected on in their database. So no changes is what you see, but you'll get a success result. So I better implement a web service that is already installed in my local machine. So it is a to-do web service in which when you say get to-dos, I'm getting all the to-dos. So we'll use this web service and perform the put, delete and post HTTP methods on this local web service and see the reflections happening on it. So continuing with the same example wherein we use this JSON placehold IP code. Now I'll in the next session I'll modify all these information to the local host to-dos get to-do along with model with to-dos model, and then we'll perform the same example. So this is the running local web service and here is the database. So I use coding 365DB, and when I run the select query on that, I get all this information with ID, description and the status, target date and username. I'll be using all this information and I'll use my client application and interact with this database, and in between we have the Spring Boot web service running. Now let us create a model again in which I say to do. I'll go for a file. It is todos.interface.ts, and let us take up the description of to-dos and create a similar interface. Export interface to-dos, and I have ID of type number, description string, and others are also string. Is done, target date, username, all are varchar. Is done string, target date string and username type string. So this is my interface, and I'll use this interface and interact with the web service and the database, and I need a dedicated service in Angular which I can create when I say cd source app and services ng generate service to-dos, and I press enter. It takes some time. Get done with the service creation, and you know, when I create a service it is not automatically registered in the app module. So open app module and register this service. So post service, and now I need to-do service. So registration is done. Save it, close the app. Now I don't need post service also, and in component I don't be interacting with the post service. Component TS, all this again I don't need, but we'll be using similar thing, and instead of post service let us create to-dos service and to-dos service, and post service we can ignore this. Once a post service is created, similar to posts array, we say to-dos and to do's. Now we can use the this dot to do service, and in to do service we do not have any method, so open to do service and use the HTTP client. Now create a method. Let us get one single to do, get to do, and this dot HTTP client dot get, and let me hardcode a URL of type string, and we give the value something like this, to do's. Now we pass the URL, this dot URL, and if I want to get one single to do, I need to pass a value, this dot to do service dot get to do. Which one do we get? We have around 6 to do's. Let us get the first one, 1001, and I directly pass the value, and this thing is actually, we get it from the HTML part, but now for here I'm just hard coding it, as our intention is to understand the HTTP methods, and I receive it over here and I call it as ID and of type number, and I pass it plus ID. I pass the value, so it would be localhost 8080 to do slash to do. So this all again I need to hardcode, get to do slash the ID. So this is how we call it. Now let me check to do slash 1001, so I get one single ID. Now it's the same thing I'm going to pass, so this is fine for me, I need a div, and this I'm passing 1001, fine, and I receive it over here and I give it. Let me check the complete URL once. I'll simply console log this and let's see what this gives us. So we don't see anything on the browser, actually we have removed all this stuff, or we should get proper link in our console. It is taking some time. Let's see what the console has to say. The console says there is an error in cannot find name to do's in component 1, so this particular thing is not imported, to do's. Now save this. Yes, let's see. So the link is fine. If I pass the same link, I copy this and I pass the same link and I get the result. So let's use this link now. So you know, when I say HTTP client.get and I pass this link, I need to return it, and all HTTP client method returns observable. So I say observable, and here of type to do's, and here also of type to do's actually to do's. Now this is done. I need, because I'm returning all this observable, how do I receive it over here? to receive the observable you say subscribe, and in this subscription you may receive the data, you may receive an error, and you may end the completion, but we'll check with the data part. Once I receive the data, I pass it to the function, and in function I simply say console log data. Let's see if we are receiving the data. I save this and I save this as well. Now we have a coarse error. Actually this needs to be fixed on in the browser, not in the server side. Once this issue is fixed on the server side, then we'll continue with getting information from the web service, which is supposed to be fixed in the web service, which is done. Now if I refresh the page, you see the data that we received is this one. So this is how you can receive one single data. You pass the URL, to dos and get to do and the ID. If you want to get all, you say get to dos and you don't mention the ID. Now similarly we can go with a deletion of a to do. For that what we do is, we'll see what all records we have. First of all, so we have 106 at web designing. Now let me have that. Now I say delete to do, and I receive a number again, ID of type number, and I return an observable of type to dos, and I say return this dot http client dot delete. And we use this URL, this dot URL plus delete to do is the link, and then you pass the ID, and this is how you delete it. Now you need to receive again, so I comment this one. Now when I say this dot to do service dot delete to do, and you need to pass the ID again, let us pass 1006, and you subscribe to the observable that is being returned, and you say data, you say console log. It's not required actually, we can directly check it in database. So we say data. Now I'll save both the files, save all, and let's see. So data. Now if you run the query, select star from the to dos, you see 1006 is deleted. Now if I try to delete the record that is not there, I end up with some error, and this error again it needs to be handled properly from the web service, and also if possible in here you can say comma error, say console log error. Done. This is the error. Based on this you can pass some information to the client and say that the record is not available. Such kind of messages is what you can display. So we saw we are getting an error when we are trying to delete a record that is not there in the database. So let's use the post method and create a record from the client application. So if I take up the client app, we get all the information from the HTML or the browser actually, and we receive all the details into the TypeScript. This all I've explained in the forms concept. But for here what I'll do is I'll simply hard code everything again. So we need a post method. This dot to do service dot we have delete and get, and I'll write a post to do. Let's leave it as it is. Now I say post to do. I need to pass an entire record, and the record is something like this. So I need to create an object, a JavaScript object. So in here I say to do equal to, in which I say ID of 1006 and description I say newly created from or created from client app, and pass the other values as well, which is done target date username. Is done, I say yes, target date, and I'll give date as 0 some random date 09092019, and finally the username I pass test user. Okay, so this is what I need to send to do. Let this be let to do. Use const instead. Okay, so I pass it. I need to receive it over here. To do is what I receive, and then I return again, or this dot http client dot post. In post, what is that we need to pass? We need to pass URL, and in URL you say plus post slash to do, post to do, and then you will pass the to do object the information, and you return all this, and you make the return type as observable of type post. It's to do's. I'm still in post search to do's. Okay, so I return this. I need to receive, what do you receive? Dot subscribe, and I say data and console log post data comma data. Now I'll save all the files now. Save all. So post data. Now let us see in database. We only have 105. Now if I run this thing, you see 106 created from client app 0, and the target date, actually the values that we are passing from the client, these things should be something like this as per the names given in the web service. Now let's run again. Okay, so this is the data created from client tab. So this is how we post a record or insert a record in database from client tab. Next method is put. We'll update the same. Our application is now able to post some data into database. So we got a record 1006 created from client tab. So this all we made from our application. Now what we'll do is we'll try to update this record. So we need a update method. I'll comment this out, and then I'll say this dot to do service dot, and we do not have any method related to update, so I create one update to do, and I need the updated to do, and of course I'll pass an observable and return this dot http client dot put. Okay, and we need the URL, this dot URL plus we say update to do. This is the link as per the web service, and then which to do are we planning to update, that is available in todo.id. So the URL is localhost 8080 to do's update to do and the ID that you are looking to update along with the updated details, which is in to do, and I receive this information, and from here I pass it. So to do service dot update to do, and then you pass the to do, this to do one, but this is the one that we created as it is. Now I say updated from client, and I give the dates as 6/6 and 2016, and this I say updated user as well, and then subscription dot subscribe, and you say you receive some data if at all the web service is passing. If not, you receive nothing. You say console log update data, and then let's see if web service is passing anything. Now I'll query once again, and I see 1006 has created from client tab. Now I'll say both the files, and the reload happens. Let's see, update data null, so web service is returning nothing, but let us see if in database, if it got updated, it should be updated from client tab. So you see updated from client tab, and the date is 6/6/2006 updated user. So this is how you update a record using HTTP client put method.